Good afternoon. This is a special called work session for discussion with the Office of District Attorney regarding the fiscal year 2026 budget request. And I'll turn it over to our Administrator, Sean Boatwright, for the presentation.
Thank you, Chairman. Scott, are y'all able to bring up that presentation, please?
Oh, hold on a minute. No, we're not going to do that. We need to open it up for
Public comment?
public comments.
Okay. Go ahead.
Anybody from the public wish to speak on this agenda item?
We also did pray or consent, please.
Well, it's not on the,
Chairman, can we get a motion to adopt the agenda as well?
yeah. All right, let's back up a little bit. We need a motion to adopt the agenda.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda. Second.
Got a first and second to adopt the agenda. All in favor? All right. Now, anybody from the public wish to speak? All right, seeing none, we'll turn it over to County Administrator for the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just to kind of get started, I wanted to be able to kind of give a brief history because I know some of our commissioners may not have been here over the past 4 years since we've kind of been budgeting for the DA's office. So Scott, if you can take us to the next slide. I don't have the clicker. So this chart right here basically kind of shows two different sets of numbers. So the blue line is the DA's funding that the county has appropriated for the last 4 years, and then also what is being requested from the DA's office for the upcoming fiscal year 2026. The orange line are the number of open cases that are currently in Camden County, and that includes felonies and misdemeanors. So that's kind of what the trend line that we're seeing right now as far as open cases in Camden County. Scott, go on to the next. Oh, sorry, I got it now. This next slide is data that we've received from the Clerk of Court's office, and basically what this shows is the blue bars there, those are the percent of cases that have either been accused or indicted by the DA's office, basically meaning that they've been brought forth to the Superior Court judges to be heard. And then the orange bars are the percent of cases disposed. That can mean that the case may have met the statute of limitations and it was dismissed, or maybe there was a plea deal met, or just any type of trial, anything like that. So, I mean, that's generally what those mean. And you can kind of see that, unfortunately, we're kind of on the downward slope, which, you know, if you go back to, this thing isn't working. Hold on. Yeah, if you go back to that slide, let me see, I got it now. Okay. So as those bars go lower, that means that there's less cases that are either being dismissed or being indicted or accused, which then in turn causes the orange line to go up even more. Because the number of cases that we receive just, you know, continue to come in. They don't just slow down or stop. The next chart here is the amount of accusations and indictments by each year. So the blue bars are the amount of accusations that the DA's office has brought forth to the Superior Court judges, and then orange are the indictments. Again, you can kind of see that downward trend line there that we're actually seeing. And just lastly, just to go over as far as approved positions that the commission has set aside over the last 4 fiscal years, and I'm going to read this from kind of the bottom up. So fiscal year 2022, commission set aside funding for an assistant district attorney. Fiscal year 23, there was another request for another ADA. That time that was not approved. In fiscal year 24, an additional request that was made for another more senior ADA at that time. That's why that number is increased. That was approved. And then for this fiscal year, there was a position that was being funded by ARPA for an ADA, and we approved that funding level for only $74,000. So that's kind of what has taken place as far as a budgeting matter from Camden County. You have this information. And with that, I think it's probably worth getting into, Mr. Higgins, for you to be able to make your presentation. I think, do we have that pulled up back there, Scott? We got it? Okay, good. Y'all can go ahead and swap to that. I'll bring this over there to you. And I believe each and every one of y'all should have an updated packet in front of you as well. Okay. Yes, sir. Okay. You may have to press that little button right there on your microphone, Mr. Higgins, to be able to, there you go.
So in looking at the funding of law enforcement for public safety purposes in Camden County, you basically have two prongs with regard to law enforcement. You've got the police and prosecution. If you fund one and not the other, you're not going to have public safety in this community because it takes both working together. As a commission, you basically fund two law enforcement agencies, the sheriff's office and the district attorney's office, because make no mistake, the district attorney's office is a law enforcement agency. We enforce the law by prosecuting crimes when there's sufficient evidence to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, getting convictions, and having justice imposed upon those who offend against our citizens here in Camden County. Now, this body as a county commission has established a strategic plan as long ago as fiscal year 2015, 2016. And in that vision for this county, and working together toward that vision in this county, one of the elements of the strategic plan is to have Camden County a safe place for our citizens to live, work, and raise their families. And that's a common goal that the district attorney's office, the sheriff's office, and all other law enforcement agencies in this county share and work together on a daily basis to try to accomplish. So the first strategic plan in which that was having Camden County as a safe place for our citizens to live in was established as long ago as fiscal year 2015 to 2016, with a strategic plan then of a 5-year plan for 2020, and then a 15-year plan looking out from that as a vision to achieve by 2030. This is the current one that most of you commissioners have adopted the current fiscal year, the strategic plan. And in that strategic plan, the vision is, this is the same thing as it was for 2030 when it was established earlier, that Camden County is safe. And that principle, as realized by this board, that the DA's office as well as our law enforcement agencies work toward every single day, is for a community where our residents feel safe and secure at home and in the community. There's a low crime rate, and if crimes occur, the criminals are arrested and prosecuted in a timely manner. Now, that can't happen if the district attorney's office is not adequately staffed and adequately funded to accomplish that purpose. But in looking at that vision and trying to reach that, here's where we are now. If you think of the criminal justice process as a funnel where you have a number of law enforcement agencies every single day making criminal cases in this county, both felonies and misdemeanors. And if it's a jury trial or a misdemeanor where a jury trial is demanded, all of those, some of those aren't showing up accurately on that revised slide, but we have the Sheriff's Office, DNR, State Patrol, Kingsland PD, St. Mary's PD, GSP, and DNR. At least the law enforcement agencies that are all making cases that are adding to those cases that are here to be prosecuted and handled by the district attorney's office. Of that, you have 174 officers that are making cases every single day here in this county. And for some reason, this isn't showing up on the projected image, but if you look at that which you are in front of you, the printed copy of the PowerPoint, to handle all of these masses of cases here in Camden County right now, there are 4 assistant DA positions, only one of which is county paid. The other 3 are state paid. here's what we have, and here's all that the budget allows us to have currently, regardless of what may have been funded or approved previously. This is all that we can staff right now. Currently, the district attorney's office, as I understand it, and I'll sit corrected or stand corrected on this, we're not receiving a monthly disbursement at all right now from this county. And that's, I'm not complaining about it, I'm just making that comment or observation. The personnel and payroll is being dispersed directly to the employees, as it should be. But because one of our employees has excessive medical costs that exceed the amount that would be budgeted for her position, we are now at a point in time where whatever would be normally dispersed to us on a monthly basis is being credited toward those medical expenses. And I'll stand corrected if I'm wrong on that, but I think that's accurate. And I'm not complaining, but that's just an observation. This is all we can afford right now under the current budget, regardless of anything that anyone wants to say about was budgeted before.
Well, to that point, can I ask a question real quick?
Yes, sir.
So if we budgeted for 3, but we're only paying 1 county ADA currently, is that what you're?
Well, what
Camden?
I'm telling you, you're only dispersing money to pay 1 attorney, 2 victim advocates, and 2 legal assistants, and 1 chief investigator right now. That the other 3 ADAs in the office are state paid. You are paying the supplement for the Deputy Chief Assistant DA, Mr. Hal Morose, who's seated to my right. So, but in terms of salary and benefits, you are not. So in terms of actually having a prosecutor here that is fully funded, if you will, by the county, there's 1 county, fully county paid ADA right now.
That supplement's around 15,000 a year.
I think it's more like 10 or 13.
Okay.
How much is it? 13. I think it's 13. And so that's what we normally pay in the DA's office for a Deputy Chief Assistant DA which is basically little more than $1,000 a month. They have responsibilities on top of their prosecutorial duties of managing the office and the personnel in the office, and therefore we pay a supplement in that amount. I will let you know that Liberty County, which is a county with a lower tax base than Camden County, that's similar in that it has a military base located there, and a DA's office that's for a multi-county jurisdiction right now, pays every assistant DA a supplement of $7,000 a year and provides them a car. In this budget request, I'm asking for authorization for a supplement for those county-paid ADAs who work here in Camden County on a daily basis of $10,000. I believe that's comparable. I believe a vehicle would be at least worth $3,000 a year. And I'm asking for you to fund also the supplement for Mr. Morose, which you're already paying, by the way. So I'm not asking for any additional funds for that.
Right now, though, you've got Hal Morose. Oh, it's not on. Oh, it's on. But right now, you've got Hal Morose, you've got Ben Gephardt.
Ben Gephardt, Cameron Atwood, and then 1 state-paid position is vacant.
Vacant, okay. Now, we don't pay supplements at all to Ben?
You do not. He is an attorney. Now, in this budget, I'm asking you to pay a portion of his supplement, and here's why. He does the appellate work for the circuit, all the appellate work. So when you convict, go to trial, get somebody convicted, there's going to be an appeal filed, and then you have to handle that appeal on behalf of the state in the appellate courts. He handles all the appellate work for all 5 counties. So what I'm asking you for in this budget, and I'll circle, is to pay a proportion of his supplement, a proportion of the supplement for the Chief Assistant District Attorney, a proportion of the salary and benefits for the IT manager, and a portion of the the salary and benefits for the Victim Witness Assistance Program Director. Those are employees that benefit the entire circuit. Now, even though some counties may have suggested that that should be split up on a population basis. I think a more fair way of doing that is based upon the general revenue of each county. I realize that Camden County, there's a lot of property that you don't receive taxes on because of the military, or there's marshlands or whatever, or federal property, that type of thing. So I'm asking you to pay a proportion of these costs that are shown on this for circuit employees that benefit the entire circuit. So Ben Gephardt is one of those employees. My chief assistant DA is one of those. The IT manager and the victim witness assistance program director is one of those. Now, the proportion I'm asking you to pay and budget for in this is revenue, general revenue figures that have been obtained from local government finance reports that have been submitted to the Department of Community Affairs. Right now in this budget cycle, there are only 3 counties in this current budget cycle: Camden, Glenn, and Jeff Davis. There's 2 counties that are already already into their budget year. Wayne County's budget year is calendar year, starts January 1 through December 31. Appling County is the federal fiscal year, so their budget cycle started October 1. So they're already into the middle of their budget year. They've already appropriated whatever funds they're going to fund at this point in time. That's why I'm asking these percentages to apply to only the 3 counties right now for this fiscal year. Now, what I will do in the next budget cycle of the other 2 counties, I'm going to ask them to contribute their fair share of this based upon their general revenue, which then should drop some of these percentages down. But that I believe is the fairest way to allocate funds for individuals who are employed by the DA's office that benefit the entire circuit, is by general revenue. And that's something, by the way, that the Glenn County Commission has expressed an interest in doing. They've questioned, why are we paying the full amount for the VWAP director and the full amount for the IT manager? So that's why I'm making this proposal to you. We'll make the same proposal to Jeff Davis and the same one to Glenn County to pay their fair share and percentage.
Yes, sir. And when you say fair share, has Camden not been paying their fair share currently?
No, you're paying what you've been asked to pay. Don't get me wrong in terms of fair share, but in terms of right now, in terms of the IT manager, the VWAP director, none of the monies that have been budgeted or appropriated have gone toward paying their cost, if you will, even though they benefit the circuit. And so I'm not saying Camden County hasn't paid its fair share. I'm just saying that Glenn County has basically said, hey, why are we paying 100% of these employees' costs when they benefit the other counties? So that's why I'm making this proposal, is to have a proportional share of these employees that benefit the entire circuit. So as you'll see, in looking at that, Camden County's percentage of that becomes about 22.8%. If you looked at the population of the circuit as a whole, you're probably looking at pretty comparable numbers, but I think this is just a fair way of doing it. And like I say, these numbers would change the next fiscal year, but that's why I'm making that request, is for you to, because Glenn County has basically raised that issue. Now, this is what we have. Because of this funnel effect, cases don't get prosecuted, cases don't get resolved any faster than the personnel in the DA's office will allow that to be done. So this is what we have. This is all the budget allows, the funds that are currently appropriated. We are not just to the dollar of this budget, we are looking at medical expenses with regard to one employee. I think hopefully will come within budget because of the medical expenses. You never can anticipate that, but I think that will happen, by the end of this fiscal year, I anticipate, hopefully. That's our expectation. But right now, there's no more money to hire any more people in this office. So if we're looking at this vision of trying to prosecute cases, arrest and prosecute cases in a timely manner to provide for the public safety of our citizens here in Camden County, quite frankly, with all due respect to Mr. Boatwright, what may have been appropriated before or not, and for what it was appropriated, really isn't the issue. We're we're over the dollar, over the penny of what we have right now, and this is what we have.
All right, on that, in 2022, we funded for an additional ADA. In 2024, we have funded for a senior ADA. In 2025, we funded for a ADA. And yet you only got one county ADA there. Where's the other two?
So some of the money went toward paying the supplements of state-paid people that we hired on. So if you look at when Glenn County in mid-September of 2024 said you're going to have to put everybody that works in another county onto their payroll, what happened at that particular point in time, a senior aide, actually who the deputy chief that was in the office at the time, was put onto state payroll. But there was even though he was put onto state payroll at that point in time in 2024, there was a supplement amount that he had been hired on, much higher than he should have been, much higher than our process or procedure should have permitted, that there was a high supplement that was associated with regard to that at that point in time. So with regard to paying supplements to that particular employee,
But when you came to us, I think I might be the only one here that's been here for all 4 of these years. But when you came to us for this funding, you said you would provide an ADA for Camden County each time. Where are the other two?
So Cameron Atwood is one of them, so there isn't other two, number one. So Cameron Atwood is a county-paid ADA.
And where's the other two?
The ARPA one that Mr. Boatwright is saying was funded by Camden County wasn't funded by Camden County. That's an ARPA grant through the Administrative Office of Courts that came through Glenn County to hire attorneys for the purpose of attacking the backlog. We initially hired part-time attorneys under a contract basis to try to attack that. Under those funds, those weren't Camden County money, Mr. Casey. Wasn't Camden County money, never was. That was grant money from the federal government that had flowed through the Administrative Office of Courts to Glenn County. So that particular person, when it became a full-time job, since it was a Glenn County grant, it was hired on in Glenn County. So the saying that Camden County funded an ARPA attorney is simply not true.
I did not say that it funded an ARPA attorney directly. It was partially funded by ARPA, but it was also funded partially by us, from what I understand. And when ARPA funds ran out, I think we picked up the whole thing.
Actually, you did not. So when ARPA funds ran out, we lost the intake clerk who was paid by ARPA down here, and there was no additional funding provided at that time because ARPA ran out, I believe, as best I can recall, Commissioner Casey, ARPA ran out, I want to say, was it March? At the end of January of 2025. So January 31, 2025 is when ARPA ran out. And with all due respect, Camden County didn't provide any additional funding to pick up the difference in that. So we lost the intake clerk at that point in time that was working in Camden County. And the ARPA attorney who was working in Glenn County, basically we were able to move her to a state-paid position that was vacant at that time up in Glenn County. But there wasn't any additional funding provided. So at that point in time, there was not any funding provided to keep those personnel. And so we lost the intake clerk. The attorney was never here. And, my recollection is different, with all due respect, than yours, Commissioner Casey, with regard to that. I don't recall Camden County ever partially funding an attorney that was partial ARPA, partial any other money.
Yeah, I mean,
if that's correct, I'll stand corrected, but.
yeah, we've got, videos of where we presented this to the board where that attorney position was funded by ARPA, that his office was using from the ARPA funds they had received. However, we picked up that expense, or should have. That's the way it was portrayed to us. So technically what we're seeing is there should be 3 county-paid ADAs. And then you got the 3 state-paid attorneys, which we provide supplements to. So there should be a total of 6 budgeted
And since then, we've actually funded that intake clerk position with some creative financing on your part, correct?
But we
Not-
haven't received
Not quite
the-
yet. We're still in the process of getting the intergovernmental agreement drafted up that that you as a commission will have to approve, and then we will work toward, I mean, the money's got to come to you before we hire. And we also have a situation now with the medical expenses of a current employee that might affect our ability to hire. I don't know. I'll have to talk to Ms. Gonzalez further about that. But we have not filled that position yet because we have to wait for the intergovernmental agreement for us to disperse the funds, and then we'll have to see where we are from a budgetary standpoint at that point in time, given the medical expenses of the other employee. That I think
My
there's still an outstanding balance or with regard to that of somewhere around $28,000. Of course, nobody can anticipate what an employee's medical expenses are going to be.
I think right now we're sitting at about 40,000. And just to kind of, answer your question earlier, why you're not receiving any reimbursements or payments right now, it's because all of your expenses are exceeding what we would actually be paying to you. So that would be, what is owed to the county, which at this time is still around 40,000 that's owed to the county, plus the deduction of payroll that we're actually fronting now instead of paying directly to you. So that's the reason why his office hasn't received any disbursements from the county.
Well, with all due respect, I didn't ask a question about it. I simply made an observation and a comment about it. So to make the board aware of where we stood currently financially, that we have who we have, and that's all we can have.
As far as the intake clerk, from my understanding, we're waiting on you for a draft agreement.
Yes, sir, that's correct. That's correct. And then you'll have to vote on that, and then we'll have to look at the financials and see whether or not that situation creates enough budget savings as we currently are to actually hire a person into that position.
Can you put that back up?
If I can figure out how to do it.
No, I mean, go back to the other one where the sheriff,
All right,
the
so-
96.
So the last time I came before you, the comment was made that the DA's budget has increased by 105%. In looking at the two law enforcement agencies that you fund as a county commission, looking at the amount budgeted for the sheriff's office, which is the other law enforcement agency that you budget for or appropriate funds for in addition to the DA's office, in fiscal year 2011 and 2012, through the current fiscal year, was a 95% increase. The DA's office increase is comparable to the same increase that the sheriff's office received, which has not been 96%. So we have not, our budget increase has not been out of line with that which was provided to the sheriff's office. They got what they needed. We got what we needed or asked for at the time. I'm asking for what we need now, because regardless of what may have happened in the past and what was budgeted or not, we still keep coming back to the vision of having crimes. If crimes occur, criminals are arrested and prosecuted in a timely manner. And right now, with the funnel the way it is, that's not happening because we don't have sufficient personnel to do that. Cases will only move along in the process as fast as the personnel permits them to do. Right now, we don't have the intake clerk. Understand you're waiting on the IGA. Right now, we don't have any other ADAs than what I'm showing you. And this is what the money that has been budgeted and appropriated to the DA's office lets us have right now, regardless of what we may have asked for, regardless of what may have been granted or for why in the past. This consumes the entire funding from Camden County. The money's not going anywhere else. This is what it pays for. To achieve the vision that this commission has stated in terms of what you want to have here as a community that's safe, where you have residents that feel safe and secure, you have a low crime rate, and criminals are arrested and prosecuted in a timely manner, here's what you have. With 4 ADAs positions, you have 746 cases per ADA. Right now, in the budget packet that's submitted to you, I believe Fulton County, and I wouldn't compare y'all to Fulton County, but I mean, they've got a lot more money, right? Their average caseload per ADA, I think, in the budget packet is like 195. I'm telling you that the national average is 176. I'm telling you that the Atlantic Judicial Circuit, where Liberty County is, a county that's the biggest county there, but a county that's comparable to this county, their caseload per ADA is 350. Now, if you take this number of 746 and divide it in half, which essentially you would be doing by adding 4 more ADAs, you'd be cutting the average caseload in half. You end up with 373. Still not where Liberty County is, or the counties where Atlantic Circuit are, but we're getting there. And that's a staffing level that we can then more effectively, efficiently, and more timely prosecute criminals in this county.
But are we doing that? Because that, and this is just off the graph that the county had, so this is what I have to go off of. As the caseload increases, I mean, we're up to almost 3,000 open cases, but then the disposition of cases is trending down. But you have more cases to prosecute. What's the reason for the downward trend?
Well, when you compare it to another administration, you're comparing apples and oranges, because if a previous administration was indicting everything that walked in the door, you're going to have a greater number of indictments. If they were indicting cases without regard to whether or not there was sufficient evidence to prove guilt or not, and then leveraging that indictment to plead cases, you're going to have greater indictments and greater dispositions, are you not?
Wasn't that your metric for a safe community, though, having cases prosecuted? And
I'm sorry?
wasn't that your metric for a safe community, which is part of our strategic plan? Your metric is the more cases you prosecute, the safer the community is.
Well, the faster you prosecute them, the more timely you prosecute them. And when you only have, currently we have 3 ADAs working, one which is not a full, basically is not 100% on Camden County because he's doing appellate work. So you essentially have 2, maybe 2.5 at best. You end up with that funnel being even tighter, right? Now, there's a state-paid position we're trying to fill, and we had an applicant and interviewed the applicant, but I wasn't able to hire him on. I wasn't able to offer him a supplement to make this offer more attractive than another county. That's why I'm asking for the supplement, because one of the parts of this commission's vision with regard to this county is having a experienced, well-trained workforce that's adequately compensated so we get quality people in here. Now, the reason I'm asking for the upper end of the state pay scale to be budgeted is simply to allow for the possibility to hire a Hal Morose if he's available, okay? For example, an experienced prosecutor that's been doing this for decades. And so if we can hire more experienced prosecutors, I don't want a situation where we got the positions and it's budgeted at entry level and then I can't hire anybody into it. But what I'm telling this commission is, if you budget it for the upper level, I will enter into whatever agreement to hire in at the state pay scale, whatever PAC says the person qualifies for. Now, I want to add a $10,000 supplement on top of that you fund to make that position more effective so I can compete with the Atlantic Circuit, where I've lost ADAs to them, where they've gone to the Atlantic Circuit because they're getting a car and $7,000 and I can't give it to them. And so that's the reason that I'm asking for the supplement from you.
When you bring up cars, and this is probably a big elephant in the room as well, there was a $2 million surplus when you took over 4 years ago. Some of that it's been said that's been spent on furnitures and cars. Do you have a fleet of vehicles for the district attorney's office?
We do, and there was a fleet when I took over. Now, the money that you're referring to, Commissioner Smith, is called asset forfeiture money.
Okay.
And the $2 million figure is what's been bandied about and people are saying, and with regard to that, but asset forfeiture funds can only be spent for specific purposes. It can be spent for capital improvements such as vehicles, furniture. It can be spent to supplement the salaries of state-paid personnel. And that's pretty much it. So we're limited with regard to what we can spend that money on. But when we spend that money, Commissioner Smith, it's money that's being saved from the taxpayers because I'm not having to ask you to buy furniture.
Right, but in
For
essence,
example.
they do have a vehicle to use as part of your fleet, correct?
They have a vehicle that's a office vehicle that can be shared type of thing. What I'm talking about in terms of the Atlantic Circuit, each ADA has a vehicle. It's not like a pool vehicle that's available to be used. Each ADA has a their own vehicle assigned to them. And so that's my basis for asking for a supplement for my ADA so that we can be more competitive in hiring people in to prosecute cases here for the community. Now, with regard to the figures, with regard to the number of indictments and number of accusations, with regard to that, with regard to, yes, those numbers have dropped down. They've increased, they've gone up. 2021, when I took office in January of 2021, we had one ADA in Camden County, one. So we started with a staff level of one prosecutor down here because regardless of how many positions were available, regardless of what funding was available, that's what was here on day one. We slowly built up the office to where we have 4 ADA positions currently in the county, and over the years we've tried to incrementally increase the number of ADAs. So you'll see that number increased up to 416, then increased up to 420, and it dropped in 2024. We've had a lot of turnover in the office. We've had a lot of positions that are vacant. Like I said, currently a state-paid position is vacant. And also, we're being more selective in which cases we indict and accuse. We're simply not indicting and accusing everything that walks in the door. You can see a difference in numbers simply by being more selective in what one indicts and accuses to begin with. That we're not going to waste taxpayer funds or money going to court on a case that we can't prove. We're not going to take up grand jury time or valuable time of our employees to indict or accuse a case that we don't believe we can prove. And so the numbers have dropped. But you see the numbers that drop in 2024 have dropped down with regard to that in terms of we've had a lot of office turnover, positions vacant, and we've been more selective in what we do, quite frankly, is the reason for that. And more selective than the previous administration, since Mr. Boatwright wants us to compare us to that.
I just think that's the only thing we really have to compare against right now.
I'm sorry?
I just think that's the only thing we have to compare against right now.
Well, I understand. Now, number of defendants convicted, you see those numbers going up as well. You see a little bit of drop off, but we have over a 99% conviction rate. And that's a product of us being more selective in what we indict or accuse, because we don't just go forward with a case and prosecute it until we evaluate it, until we determine that there's sufficient evidence to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, and that's proof of that. If we do otherwise, we're doing an injustice to the taxpayers of this community by wasting valuable resources, and quite frankly, we're doing an injustice to anybody who we're pursuing a prosecution against at that point in time. But in addition to that, we also have a victim advocates here that serve victims as well. And over the course of the first 4 years that we have provided services to about 5,200 victims, about 4,300 of whom have been victims of violent crime. So those are things that we do as well. Basically, we do the best we can with what we have, and we'll continue to do that. I'm simply letting you know as a commission what we need to do the job the way it needs to be done.
I just have a few things, a few questions. So you mentioned that you're being more selective on indicting and accusing. However, the highest percentage that we've seen is only not even 27% of cases that the Superior Court office has received as far as total cases. So like just an example, in 2021, there was almost 1,500 cases that were entered into, but only 196 of those were either accused or indicted. And then you fast forward to 2023, there was 1,500 cases, 1,504 actually, and only 258 of those were either accused or indicted. So is it that you're being more selective, or is it that you just don't have the staff to be able to accuse or indict?
It's a combination of both. So number one, we're more selective, which is going to reduce the number of accusations and indictments we file. And also, there's been turnover in staff over the 4-year period of time. So like I said, we start out with 1. We build the office up to a certain level. We had 4, 1's left. Now we got 3, if you want to count Ben Gephardt as 100% Camden County. Like I say, it's more of his duties are more half-time, half for Camden County. But it ebbs and flows in terms of our staffing level, if you go with regard to that. In terms of what I'm asking for is to have the positions available so I have the opportunity to fill them. If I don't have a position, I can't hire a person to fill that position.
I understand you have capital equipment here, but out of the $2 million that you had mentioned earlier, as far as like the seized money, or however you stated asset forfeiture money, how much of that is left? Have we spent $2 million on, or have you spent $2 million on equipment and vehicles and furniture?
Like I said, that's asset forfeiture money. That would be money that would be, I believe the actual balance of that when I took office was more like $900,000. But be that as it may, y'all are stuck on the 2 million figure. I think it was more like $900,000. Some of that money was spent before I took office for capital improvements to the Glenn County office, where it was restructured, remodeled, if you will, as it currently stands. Some of that money was spent to obtain vehicles to be used by investigators in the office and other personnel. Some of that office was used to purchase surveillance equipment that we make available to our law enforcement agencies in the circuit for them to use during their investigations. Pole cameras, night cameras, things of that nature, wiretap equipment as well.
Do you know how much is remaining, though, out of the 900?
I don't. I came with all due respect, Mr. Boatwright, I came to deal with the budget request and budget proposal, and whatever amount of money is in asset forfeiture and is still available would not allow me to fund any positions here in Camden County that I'm asking for. Like I said, the only way I could use that fund would be to pay a supplement of state-paid personnel. Would be the only way I could use that funding in terms of personnel costs. So none of that money would allow me to hire any additional personnel to prosecute cases down here in Camden County. So, with regard to that, I'll be happy if you want to know the balance of that. That would be a balance that would be available, that had been obtained circuit-wide, that would be available to benefit circuit-wide, not just Camden County. But none of that funding could have been used to hire any personnel down here, none of it.
And just to kind of clarify too, so I know that you had kind of had one slide, and I'm trying to remember what page it was on, about the sheriff's office. I think it was the final slide that you had. I don't remember what number it was.
96%.
Yeah, on your slide, page 17. So if you just take, from 2021, I know you've got from 2011, 12 to 2024, 2025, but if you just take the term of office that you've had, your budget has increased by approximately 96, 97%. And in that same time frame, the sheriff's office budget has only increased by 47, almost 48%. But with your budget request, your increase would go to a 388% increase in that same time. So from fiscal year 21 to fiscal year 26, if the commission were to fully fund your request, that'd be a 388% increase.
I'm here to ask for the staffing levels that I need to do the job that needs to be done for the citizens of this county. With regard to the percentage increase, like I said, and even though I was criticized for it, the point I was trying to make the last time I was in front of this commission is that there was a period of time when no budget increase was asked by the DA's office prior to me taking office. So it was a flat line in terms of increase in funding. For about a 10-year period of time, if you go look back at the fiscal year information. And so we're playing catch up to a certain extent to fund the office and to staff the office at that point in time. But with regard to fulfilling the vision of providing a safe community and public safety and prosecuting cases in a timely manner, I'm asking for what we need to do the job that we want to do for the citizens of this county.
As a citizen of this county, a taxpayer of this county, and they look and see that we funded a position in '22, we funded a position in '24, and we got a disagreement on the '25 one, but you've only got one. So where's that money? Where are those
All the money's still here in Camden County. Like I said, Cameron Atwood is a county-paid ADA that did not exist when I took office. So that's one of the positions. The other position, as I previously indicated, Chairman Casey, has been needed to fund a supplement for a state-paid ADA to move him from a county-paid position to a state-paid position. He was here in Camden County as a county-paid, moved him to a state-paid position here with a certain amount of supplement associated with that. So
But when you came to us, you said you need an ADA, a position, each time. You didn't say where you were going to use that money as a supplement to pay somebody else.
So what you're conflating, with all due respect, Commissioner Casey, is what was asked for at the time and then circumstances changing and needing to use funds for other purposes. So for example, I didn't anticipate $40-something thousand in medical expenses affecting the DA's budget. Nobody could have anticipated that. You couldn't, your finance office couldn't. That's something that's going on now. So as the circumstances change, you use the resources you can to provide the best services you can for this county, and that's what's happened. This is what I need to do the job that's here. This is what I'm asking for. Regardless of whether or not you provide any additional funding or not, we will continue to do the best job we can for this county and prosecute cases the best we can to hold criminals responsible for their acts, to make this county a safer place for our families to live, work, and raise their families, for our citizens to do that. But this is what I'm asking for. This includes the intake clerk, and like I've indicated before, what this is. Now, the total amount of this includes paying a percentage of the supplements for the two circuit employees, if you will, as I've indicated. So that increases the budget. It includes a 2.5 step increase for the current employees starting the 1st of January. It's budgeting for the intake clerk, because when we do a budget, we still have to budget what that is regardless of the source of the funds, right? So it's asking for that. It's asking for 3 additional investigators, 2 legal assistants, 2 advocates, and 4 ADAs. I'm trying to provide this county with an office that has 8 prosecuting attorneys and support staff of 4 each in every category: investigators, victim advocates, and legal assistants, as well as an intake clerk.
And you're saying all those positions would remain in Camden?
Yes, sir.
Well, and
Yes, sir.
And that does look great, but you've previously brought a budget, and we've provided that, and then you've done other things with the money. What's to keep that from happening on double the budget?
So with regard to personnel costs, what is in place now that wasn't in place before is that you're dispersing payroll directly to the employees. That money's not coming to the DA's office. That money is being, if you will, for lack of a better word, deducted from the monthly appropriation, and then that money is being dispersed directly to the employees. So what's in place now that would prevent that from happening is you've got positions that you can create in your HR department for the DA's office that would have these positions. They would be budgeted for a certain amount for each position. And then we would hire into those positions as budgeted, and if we couldn't hire in a person into that position at a rate that's any more than what was budgeted for it. The reason I'm asking for the $125,000 amount, or whatever it is exactly for the ADA positions, is so that I can hire the most experienced possible prosecutor that may be available for each position. Understanding and agreeing and providing to HR the evaluation for each applicant that I'm taking on board as far as where they hire on the state pay scale, and I would not hire them, and I would commit and sign any agreement you want me to, would not hire them into any more than what the state pay scale provides for them.
And this is just the county, this isn't the circuit, correct?
This is Camden County. This is Camden County.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
You're actually asking for almost $1.1 million, basically more than you got last year. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
If you're asking for that kind of money, is there a way that you could show us exactly what it would cost to staff our DA's office in Camden County?
Now, it's going to depend upon so with regard to the prosecutors, it would depend upon what level they hit on the state pay scale. Hal Morose is a rarity. He's a unicorn in terms of being able to hire him on, quite frankly. Blessed to be able to hire him on with regard to his salary level.
Need to keep him as well.
And want to try to keep him any which way I can. So there's no way to predict. I provided, I believe, this commission previously with what the state pay scale is. Right now, Class 1, Step 1, there's 4 steps, Class 1 through 4. There's different steps within each class. Class 1, Step 1, brand new out of law school is something like $60,258. So if I was hire somebody straight out of law school, that's what I'd hire them for. I'd ask you to budget. Now, I'm asking you to budget this money. It doesn't mean necessarily it's going to be spent, but to allow for the possibility of it being spent, because that's what we do in budgets. You got to, and you do that for medical expenses. You do an estimate for how much each employee is going to cost you for medical expenses, for example, or how much it's going to cost you for workers' comp claims or whatever it is. So I'm asking you to budget for it. You're not going to be sending the money to me. It's just going to be available. You're saying that if you need to hire somebody, you can hire them up to not to exceed this amount, with the understanding if I'm hiring somebody straight out of law school, they're going to be hired at Class 1, Step 1. I am asking y'all to allow for an additional $10,000 per year supplement for each county, for each employee that's not deputy chief, and for y'all to supplement their salaries with that, with regard to whether it's state paid or county paid, to attract employees and be able to be competitive in hiring process. And that's one of the things that are in your goals also in your strategy, not just for this year, but back to 2030 as well, is to be able to hire and retain qualified workers and with competitive pay and benefits. So that's what I'm trying to do with that.
Now, going back to this list for Camden County, you said that all these people would be in Camden County, but you've said before that you want to be able to move them wherever you need to move them.
So for example, so in terms of handling a prosecutor's office and having attorneys, they have a caseload. So Hal has a caseload, Cameron has a caseload, Ben has a caseload. Whatever attorneys come in this office is going to have a caseload. That's what they're going to have to handle. You can't effectively move people from a certain number of hundreds of cases to just willy-nilly around. It just doesn't work that way. What I want to be able to do, Commissioner Casey, with all due respect, is if I have a situation where I've got an ADA that's out sick in another county, or I've got an ADA that's sick here or unavailable for some reason. Let's say I've got a female attorney that's out on extended maternity leave, and I've got a trial counter that's coming up, and I got to have somebody, or I've got preliminary hearings, and I need to bring somebody down here to cover court for a period of time while that attorney's out. I want to be able to bring a Glenn County person down there here to help out Camden County. I'm not, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So in terms of managing a prosecuting attorney's office, you don't just assign, each of these attorneys have a caseload that they have to handle. So that keeps them anchored, if you will, in those counties, because otherwise you're not effectively managing a caseload if you just move them around willy-nilly. I do want the flexibility to be able to move somebody on a temporary basis when circumstances arise, as they often do, such as we had a situation that took place here during my term of office, where we had Robert German resign down here. I had my deputy chief resign up in Wayne County. I've got 2 state-paid prosecutors, experienced prosecutors in Glenn County. Now, if they were anchored to Glenn County, I can't bring them to Camden County to help out down here. I ought to be able to transfer them down here to cover until I can get somebody else hired on.
Now, I can see that with a state-paid ADA, but if the county's paying for that ADA, don't you think that ADA should be in Camden County handling our cases?
I would say 95, 99% of the time, and the people that I would generally use to go cover would be the state-paid people, quite frankly. But if Hal's in a murder trial, like he just got done with one, the Gilligan's Island case down here, and he's tied up, and I need somebody to cover, I want to be able to just temporarily have somebody go cover court. I had a situation that took place where we had a preliminary hearing scheduled in Appling County. I had a state-paid ADA in Glenn County. That state-paid ADA covered the preliminary hearings up in Appling County. Now, if that person was being paid a supplement from a county, which I'm trying to shift to all the supplements being paid by the counties, and we can move toward having a sharing basis of that, of all the ADAs or just the ADAs that are in each individual county. But if that ADA, state-paid ADA, was being paid a supplement from Glenn County and I couldn't have moved him, well, guess what? I'm sorry, Mr. Magistrate, but we can't do court today. We've got a conflict. I don't have an ADA to send to you. And the reverse can happen down here in Camden as well. It's not just relating to another county. It can happen down here where I may have somebody, I may need to bring somebody down here to cover. Or if I've got an ADA up in Glenn County that they have a specialty in sex offenses, and that I may want to bring them down here to handle that one case. So Camden County would benefit by not restricting an employee exclusively to their county, but I'm just asking for being able to temporarily, from time to time, on an as-needed basis, be able to use people other places.
So how many how many attorneys are you requesting across the whole district?
Well, right now, we're in the middle of budget negotiations with Glenn County and Wayne County. I'm asking Wayne County for 3 county paid. I'm providing them with a state paid. I'm asking Glenn County for, I believe I'm asking them for 8 ADAs,
County paid?
8 county paid.
How many
I believe,
state
is that right?
would they have?
I believe that's right.
How many
So-
state ADAs would they have?
So they have 3, you have 3.
Well, we have one state. How many state?
No,
paid?
actually, you have 3 state. Hal's state paid.
Oh, I'm looking at Wayne's numbers. Sorry, the ones you just read off. I apologize.
So Hal's state paid, Benjamin state paid, and I have a state paid position that's vacant right now because the ADA in that position went back to Chatham County.
And we've budgeted for 3, but you only have 1 county paid.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Understanding that you may have to move attorney from county to county at times, is it true that just about every other county in the circuit over the course of your term has doubled or near doubled your budget?
I have no idea. That's not something that, I looked at this presentation to be Camden County specific, so I haven't looked at what anybody else has done. We have asked for budget increases from all the counties. I will tell you that the Appling County budget was basically $121,000 annually, and when Glenn County in the middle of September said you got to move people to the payroll of the counties in which they work, more than the annual amount that was budgeted by Appling County was consumed by putting 2 legal assistants on their payroll. And so that's what took place. So there was an increase in cost to this county as well when you allowed the employees, and I'm appreciative of that, but when you allowed the employees here in Camden County to be put on Camden County payroll, that increased the cost of this county when you're looking at medical expenses and all the other associated benefits. Because those employees previously were on, they may have been working here being paid through Glenn County with Glenn County benefits, which was cheaper, to be honest with you.
The only reason I asked that was because I believe it's fact that, I mean, those are publicly available documents, their budgets, you can find them on their websites, and they have near doubled your budget. So the reason why I was asking that was because if they have near doubled or doubled the budget for you, then they have provided enough resources to be able to offset, hopefully, some of the transfer of case, attorneys back and forth across the circuit. I think that was the general hope, if you will. I know sometimes it might be specialty cases where, you might have an attorney that specializes in like a violent crime case. I think we can all understand that, but when every county's just about doubled the budgets, I think that's providing quite a bit of more resources to the circuit than that has ever been given before.
Well, and that's true. It's more resources that have never been given. And like I said, again, if you go back to 2011, 2012, and you look at the amount that was requested and budgeted for the DA's office year after year after year for like a 10-year period up until 2020, until my first budget, which was the first budget 2021 to 2022, those numbers are almost a straight line. And so there's a need to provide, over that 10-year period, how many more criminal cases were made? How many new felony crimes were created by the legislature? What happened to the crime rate? And resources yet were remaining the same. Circuit-wide, not just Camden County. Now that was, and I'm not pointing the finger at anybody, it's because you weren't asked for anything more. You provided what you were asked for. But when you have that situation over a 10-year period where population increases, crime increases, the number of crimes that need to be prosecuted by a DEA's office increases because now a fourth shoplifting is now a felony, fourth DUI is now a felony, et cetera. And the increased caseload that's associated just with all of that, yet the resources remain the same, there's a period of time that there's a catch-up period before. And I think the last time I was before you, I said we pretty much started behind the 8 ball a little bit. Through no fault of this commission, but I'm just making a comment and an observation with regard to that. So regardless of where we were and how we got there and what was requested and what was appropriated, we are where we are. And where we are right now is right here.
Mr. Chairman, I believe in the sincerity of everybody in this place. I believe Mr. Higgins is very sincere. I believe we're sincere. I think we're all in over our heads. And I see a solution to this, and I will probably encapsulate these few words in a motion. We don't function in a vacuum, none of us. This commission does not. We answer to voters. My voters are going to stand on their head if I vote for an increase in the light of what's been presented here and what's been going on. So we have resources available to us. Mr. Higgins, you have resources available to you. And I think we should call on those resources. What are the oversight agencies at the state and federal level? What review of professional standards can be embarked upon, best practices, compliance with all applicable laws to protect the rights of the accused and to prosecute those that need prosecuting. So what I'm asking us to consider doing, Commission, is to realize that we're on some very, very thin ice here. Not only politically, but I suspect legally, that we can't do this going forward without oversight. And I would like to submit that we request, as a commission, a review of this by the state courts, by the Attorney General, State Attorney General, by the Prosecuting Attorney Council of Georgia, and any other agency which shall have jurisdiction over this matter for guidance as to how we get ourselves out of this sticky wicket legally, ethically, morally, correctly, and do the right thing by Mr. Higgins and by the citizens of this county. I will put that in the form of a motion, that we admit that we have to have some help and that we call upon these agencies to assist us.
It's a work session, Mr. Goodman.
I think we can. I think we
I
can
stand
make a motion.
corrected. I apologize, Mr. Goodman.
That's
We
all
are
right.
in a special call meeting, so a motion can be made technically.
Wouldn't you rather do that at a regular board meeting?
It does not, that would be a matter of formality, Mr. Chairman. I would do it at a regular board meeting.
I'll
Give-
second your motion, Mr.
Give the
Goodman.
public more.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I think the public needs to be part of this. I think Mr. Higgins needs some help. I think we need some help. And this is the best way to do it, is to call upon those agencies which, can offer. Let's call the Coast Guard, the state attorney's Coast Guard. We're in some deep water here.
That'll give us, if we do it at a regular meeting, that'll give everybody time
I certainly agree with that,
to
Mr.
consider
Chairman.
what's going on.
So do you withdraw your previous motion?
I do.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, I do want to just inform the board, we did enter into, with the other counties in the circuit to provide for an audit of the DA's office. So that's ongoing right now. And one thing I failed to mention just whenever I got started on my slide, but, if you were to take into account the full request from the DA's office, and we've met with every department, we've met with every constitutional office, we've met with the JDA, other state agencies that we fund, libraries, we've met with everybody, and if you were to take into account the full request, we're $3.35 million short to balance the upcoming fiscal year budget.
Yeah, and we're trying not to use any fund balance or do a tax increase to do this budget. So that, we've got a lot to think about and maybe some more to cut somewhere.
Now, I would like to say that I do welcome the audit. I hope it's a true forensic audit, because quite frankly, if my office manager, who had signature control over the checking account and had exclusive possession of the debit card on our operating account, if any of those funds were misappropriated, I want to know about it and I want it prosecuted. So I do welcome the forensic audit, and I do appreciate y'all voting to help fund that.
Mr. Higgins, did you suspect that there was misfeasance?
No. The
Well,
first.
it seems to me that you've raised the question now tonight.
Well, I found out a lot of things after the fact.
That
So
should have
when
been
you,
your opening statement.
we're here about the budget, not about how we got to any other situation.
It's like the building's on fire, by the way.
You're asking to double the budget, and then there's concerns about how the money's
Well,
already been
that
spent.
office manager is no longer employed, number one.
The crime has been committed. You're the prosecuting attorney. You're the district attorney.
Well, if a crime's been committed, it's going to get prosecuted, but the forensic audit is in place. I supported that. I've been cooperative with regard to that. They're currently looking at our information in the DA's office up in Glenn County. We're providing them with all records. So with regard to that, I do welcome that.
Well, that would certainly explain a lot about where the money went, wouldn't it?
If money went anywhere else, but like I said before, with all due respect, Commissioner Goodman, every penny that Camden County has appropriated to the DA's office is being spent in Camden County right now. There is no missing money in Camden County. Yes, there was some invoices that still remain to be paid, but those are being caught up with regard to that, as we previously agreed and as this commission has approved. So with regard to that, circling back, I'm asking for what we need to do the job that we want to do for the citizens of this county, to make this a safer place for our citizens down here to live, work, and raise their families.
And we
I'm
want that,
asking,
too.
and I'm not asking for any more than I feel for that. And so we have the same vision. It's just a matter of how we get there. Y'all obviously have the duty of deciding how much you appropriate to which entity or to which budget request. That's what I'm asking for. Whatever you do, you do. We'll do the best we can no matter what.
Mr. Higgins, back to your point about flexibility, is there a reason you don't process payroll in-house? So like we're concerned about taking county-paid employees and taking them, that county-paid resource to another county. Is there a reason they're not circuit-paid employees?
Well, there's no intergovernmental agreement between the counties that would make that be the case. For people to be circuit-paid employees, there would have to be some agreement reached between all 5 counties for that to be the case. And you would have to reach a certain understanding about what percentage of the cost each county would pay for that. Now, if you want to do that by a percentage basis and enter into that agreement, so be it. I think probably what would end up happening, you're going to end up paying a higher percentage of the total cost for the circuit than you would be if you just took care of your own county.
And Mr. Higgins, if it was in fact the decision of the counties to enter into an agreement to run a circuit, would you be willing to consider that?
I'm open to any type of discussions. I'll definitely consider it. Now, it depends upon how you want to do that. If, I still need what I need in each county in terms of that. So, for example, in Wayne County, I provide one state-paid ADA. I need 3 county paids given their caseload. In Appling County, I provide one state-paid ADA. I need 2 more up there for a total of 3, 2 county paids. In this county, I'm asking for what I believe I need down here based upon a caseload, trying to get closer to what the Atlantic Circuit has, Liberty County and the other counties in that circuit have. In Glenn County, I'm asking for the same thing. Quite frankly, in Glenn County, I'm probably asking for less than I need because I have a certain amount of office space and I run out of office space at a certain amount of time. But I'm asking for that from each county, and as long as each county was paying the percentage of all that, their requisite percentage of all that, I wouldn't have a problem with that in principle.
And certainly in the past, you came before us in September bringing up the fact that when we'd asked about, county, ADAs being assigned to Camden County to address these issues, you'd said, well, they've got to work the district because it is the district attorney's office. So if this was to be an idea to enter into an IGA between the 5 counties to create the district for the district attorney's office, that would certainly give the flexibility to your office to move ADAs as required, wouldn't it?
It certainly would, but Ms. Fortier, the situation with regard to that, I would still keep those that have a Camden County caseload in Camden County for 99% of the time and would only move them somewhere else on an as-needed basis and temporarily. Now, what a circuit situation would allow me to do is if, for example, so y'all would have to enter in some agreement who's paying for the benefits and costs, and y'all would have to have an IGA to contribute your percentage to the other county, whoever the payroll agent is. Ideally, that's the best way to go, quite frankly.
I think,
You referenced the Atlantic Circuit, I'm sorry.
No, you
Commissioner.
please go ahead.
You referenced the Atlantic Circuit. Are you aware if they operate under a unified IGA?
I certainly am.
Do they?
I'm very good friends with the DA Billy Joe Nelson up there, and I certainly am aware of that. And they have the largest county as the payroll agent, and the other counties basically contribute their funds directly to Liberty County, as I understand their operation.
Okay, thank you.
Just a few things so we can at least start moving forward. One of the things I understand is we have a huge amount of misdemeanors, and that these folks, we need to get them through the system. Is there any way that you could get someone to help Hal to get this?
Sorry, that's me. My bad.
Because we've got to start doing something. The sheriff's here. He's got the inmate population down to 130. That was a big goal that we had, and I think that's exceptional because that saves us money in the long run, around $300,000 a year, right there. So those things help us, and I understand you're understaffed. I do understand that. I agree with Jim. We need some help to figure this thing out. However, you still got to move forward to make some things happen.
Like I say, we'll do the best we can with what we have, and right now, when I've got 2.5 ADAs effectively here, for whatever reason, I've got a vacant position, trying to fill it. Not living it vacant on purpose. We take applicants, we interview them, we make offers, they accept it or didn't. Right now.
I think it benefits our community to have our ADA's office or the DA's office staffed. I agree with that. Until we can come to an agreement or get I'm glad he mentioned maybe have a consultant come in and help us out. He pointed his finger at me because he doesn't like consultants. Oh. Make sure you know it's coming. But I agree with that. But I would love to see us progress at least on the misdemeanor cases.
So with regard to misdemeanor cases, I'll let Mr. Morose address those a little bit.
He's gotta have
With regard
help.
to that, in
Yeah.
terms of, he's boots on the ground here in Camden County on a daily basis, and he can let you know the reality of how we're operating and having to operate right now, so I'll defer to him.
I hope you take no disrespect in me calling you friends, because I consider you friends. I'm a resident of St. Mary's. I've lived in Camden County. I was a judge here 25 years ago. I was a prosecutor in the Atlanta area. I was a judge in the Atlanta area. I was the municipal court judge for the city of St. Mary's.
Can you,
I was a magistrate here as well. Friends, my grandchildren live in Camden County. I care about Camden County. I want to talk about those statistics first of all and address that. When I was a municipal court judge, if you got a traffic ticket here in Camden County and you didn't want it to be heard in a municipal court, you know where you'd send it to die? You'd send it to the Superior Court. And that became one of the misdemeanor cases you see here today. That goes on today in the cities. So these numbers of cases are an illusion. I came aboard here 16 months ago. I was actually coming here to retire because I'd had it. I was in Albany, Georgia, which is the murder capital of Georgia and has been the top 10 with regards to murder capitals per capita in America. I've prosecuted probably more murder cases than, I know of 3 people who've prosecuted more murder cases than myself. In the 16 months I've been here, Mr. Higgins has asked me to take care of the murder cases we have, and my friends, there were 11 when I arrived. Today there are 6. 6 remaining. He also asked me to address the serious violent felonies. What are they? The armed robberies, the rapes, the child molestations. I ask you, would you rather have a DA's office prosecuting the murders here or the traffic tickets? Which one? What's more important to this community? I sat here biting my tongue when I hear Mr. Higgins trying to defend these particular numbers and the request of you gentlemen. I have told him that's what I need to run this office. I know that, friends, because I've run a DA's office before. He had asked me just over a month ago to take the reins as the deputy here because he needed help in Camden County. And you know what? I would probably have preferred not to do that. But I recognized a need in this community for the people here, for the people like this sheriff sitting back here, who processes thousands of cases a year. And if you don't have a DA's office that can handle those cases, everything he and his deputies do, everything the city of St. Mary's and Kingsland does is for nothing. You know why? Because they can charge whoever they want, but they will never see a prosecution to the end because it takes people in my office. I am in charge of Camden County's prosecutions. I get Mr. Higgins runs the circuit. I am responsible for the prosecutions here in this county. I need that. Friends, my family needs that. Your family needs that. The people who are in the audience need that. We need a functioning district attorney's office that can handle cases. We have been at a steady state of 3,000 open cases since I've been here. You know why? Because we lack the resources. We take in about 30 to 40 cases a week. You know how many we resolve? 30 to 40 a week. Are they the ones we take in? Absolutely not. These are the low-hanging fruit that die on the vine because the statute of limitations has run out or there is some other impediment to prosecuting that. The ones that come in, I'm paid to prioritize. I hit the murder cases. I hit the armed robberies. I hit the aggravated assaults on police officers. I hit the crimes that are violent and they affect this community to its very core. 2 weeks ago, I prosecuted a band of people who tortured, in St. Mary's, tortured and murdered a guy. And but for a prosecution of cases like that, you're going to have people running around here that are going to inflict mayhem on this community. The jail population is up. I get that. You know why the jail population is up? Because charges are made, and if they're serious violent felons, they stay behind bars until they're prosecuted or can make bail. And when officers of the Camden County Sheriff's Office are shot at in January, and you all know what I'm talking about, it happened right here in Woodbine. You had a guy shoot up people, including officers in patrol cars. I'm prosecuting that case. When the charges were given to me by the sheriff, I did not hesitate. I indicted that case. I indicted it right away. Would anyone here in their right mind prefer I indict a traffic violation from St. Mary's? Anyone? No. I get that there is stuff that has gone on here. I'm not even going to comment on that because I don't care about that. I care about Camden County. I care about people who live here, people who transit Camden County, and people who live here. That's what I care about. And I care about justice. Justice must be maintained on a priority level. I would love to handle every case. You want me to handle every case? Give me the numbers. Give me the numbers and I will handle every case. Well, how can you say that? Call me here every month and ask me for the status. Give me the people and I will make myself accountable here. And if I can't make myself accountable, I will resign without anyone being asked. We don't have time, friends, to have 1,000 inquiries take place, probably on a situation that doesn't involve Camden County. But it does involve us and our families. I don't even have a receptionist in my office. The face of the office. The phone rings and God help somebody to answer that because they're doing a dozen other things. I care about this community. I know you gentlemen do too. I saw it in your mission statements. And I hate taxes. I pay them. And I've come to the conclusion that, communities of good report, of order, of justice, people rise to the occasion. I am asking you gentlemen to rise to the occasion. If you have bones of contention with the circuit, I get that. I am asking you to fund my office. I am asking you to give me the resources so I can address the misdemeanors, which are the big secret of the world. The misdemeanors are the revenue enhancers, right? Because you have fines from misdemeanors that are easily paid by people. You want a license to drive a car, you pay your fine. We cannot prioritize misdemeanor cases over serious violent felonies. When you see numbers that degrade in that manner, know this, that the numbers of the people who are indicted are serious violent felons. I had a grand jury last week. You know what was indicted? A murder case, an armed robbery case, a vehicular homicide case, a gang case, another robbery case, another murder case. We're doing the hard work. We can do more. And like Mr. Higgins said, it doesn't matter. You vote this down, and it's like, no, you know what? We'll let it pass for another year or two. And you people are going to wind up with Albany, Georgia on your hands here. And that is not a pretty sight, my friends. You have it in your power now to change the destiny of this community. I have never seen a better working relationship between the district attorney's office, the sheriff's department, and the two city police agencies. Call me on that. Call the chiefs of police. Ask the sheriff about his relationship with my office. I never turned down a call. I never turned down a request for help. That includes from you guys as well. You can make this community the dream that was envisioned. When I left here 25 years ago, this was Mayberry RFD. Today, I say to myself, forgive my English, what the hell happened to this community? I have 6 pending murder cases that I'm going to try by the end of this year. What the hell happened here? You don't get people on the small crimes, you're encouraging them to continue. That's why it's important to man this department, this office, this law enforcement agency, so we can stop this and we can reverse it. And when you look at the thing and you go, Hal, what's going on? You've only indicted 10 cases these last 6 months. Well, guess what? It's working. It's working. We're deterring crime. We're putting criminals away. I care about the community. I know you do too. I'm not a numbers guy. I'm not with the finances on this, and I get your questions, and they're good questions, gentlemen. They're good questions. Hold someone accountable. I offer myself. If I say I'm the prosecutor here in Camden County, I offer myself as being accountable. When you allocate funds to Mr. Higgins, and he says, Hal, that's not going to happen, which he would never do. Because my one requirement of him when I accepted his job offer just over a month ago was, sir, let me do my job. And his answer was, you got it. I ask you, gentlemen, let me do my job. Look at this budget. Better yet, I invite you, 1 by 1 or 2 by 2, come down to my office anytime. I will show you. I am not asking for another inch of office space, not another inch. I can put everything that's required in the area I have. I need your support, and I need you to look at what actually is happening where the rubber meets the road. I ask you to have the courage to come to my office and see me, see the people who are working. Take a look at the mountains of cases that are sitting there, how I prioritize them, why I prioritize them, and why I need your help. If I could get that commitment from you, I'd leave here happy today. I don't see a reason why you wouldn't come and see me in my office. And I ask you to do that this week before you vote on the budget. That's my only request of you, and I don't think it's too much to ask. But you'll be the judge of that, each of you.
Mr. Howell, since you're in charge of the Camden office, maybe you'd know. If we've budgeted for 3 ADAs, where are the other, what happened to the money for the other 2 positions?
Sir, I have no idea. I have no idea. I'm not into the budget side of, the financing of the slots. My latest revelation came from Mr. Boatwright yesterday when we had a conversation, and I didn't have an answer for him. He said, Hal, where are you looking at filling these slots from? Where are you posting? And I looked at him and I said, I don't know. And I said, what options do we have? In Camden County, not to my surprise, Mr. Boatwright said, we have the premier HR department here, and we can help you in the posting of positions. I'm going to take him up on that offer. I'll take up anyone on an offer to help and an offer to contribute to the success of our community. I get you have an awesome fiscal fiduciary responsibility when you enact a budget. I get it. right? I get it. And I also get that I'm sitting next to a man who is under siege, and I believe by no fault of his own, he is now in the defensive mode, trying to run an office and do what's right by the people who elected him. I ask you to do right by the people who elected you. Yes, look into the budget. If I give you my word on something, I will not break my word. The sheriff has heard me say this before. I have 2 rules for the people who work for me. 1, don't lie. And the second rule, don't hide anything. Come to my office. I won't lie to you. I won't hide anything. You know, I think this is a pivotal moment for the history of our county. And gentlemen, I hope you make the right call, and I hope we are not mired down in an investigation after investigation that doesn't include you or this county. I care about Camden County, and I'll be honest with you, I don't care much about the other counties of this circuit. I care about this. This is my priority, supporting these cops who make the cases so their cases don't die on the vine and the people are served justice. This office exists for 2 reasons. 1, prosecute crimes. 2, advocate for victims. We're doing a crappy job of advocating for victims because we have a crap load of cases sitting there that do not have the staffing that meets the needs that this office should be providing, and it's an embarrassment. I'm ashamed of it. I hope you are too. I know this gentleman next to me is not happy about that because he asked me to square this away. I offer my services to you. I offer me as accountability to you. And that's the only thing I can do. My word's my bond. I'll prosecute crimes here. If you don't do a thing, it doesn't matter to me. At the end of the day, I will prosecute these murder cases, and I will get the serious violent felons to the best of my ability. But we can do better than that. You can do better than that. And I think Keith has had a big lesson in being a district attorney over the tenure of his first 4 years. And believe me, I've been in his shoes in another county, and it's not fun. Right? At best, you please half the people, half the time.
One more question?
Yes, sir.
By the way, you're still my friend, Hal, as far as
Thank
that
you, sir.
goes.
Martin, I've only known you for going on 30 years now, so yes, sir.
But, you know, all I was trying to do, and I think all of us are trying to do, we want to staff your office. We want this caseload to go down. That's vital. But, you know, we want to try to figure out a way to finance it.
Yes, sir.
Now, I looked at that. It looks like you're going to need 13 people other than lawyers, right? Am
Yes,
I
sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Do they make around, I was just guessing, but do they make around $40,000 a year?
Sir, I do believe the budgeted line items are in your
Now, I hadn't
handout.
looked at
Oh,
it.
yes,
It's right
sir.
here in front of me, but,
Yes, sir. It varies.
okay, but would 40,000 be a good number? 'Cause it's
yes,
going to be
sir.
higher than that?
Sir.
So I don't have in the PowerPoint the specific numbers with regard to
If it's
positions.
higher than 40,000, you do know I'm looking for a job, right? That's a
Well,
good-
if you're post-certified, we'll hire you as an investigator if you get post-certified. So normally, and I can't tell you what the exact numbers are in your budget packets, let me see. You know what
We don't have to be exact. I was just thinking that's a good number to use. That's almost $600,000.
Well, I think a lot of the increases for personnel, that's where the money's
That was my
at.
question.
That's
So
where the money's
staff, his
coming.
office would be around 600 plus the
Well-
ADAs.
Well, simply to add the 4 ADAs, if you do it at 125,000, whatever it is in the budget, that comes up to about $500,000, 500,000 by itself. Now, once again, and I understand, I see some reactions there, we're asking for that amount to be budgeted, which isn't necessarily going to be spent. But when you do a budget, you need to allow for possibilities,
We've
right?
done budgets.
If it's
So when
not
you,
spent,
so when
where
you
does
do
it
a
go?
budget, you allow for potential medical expenses on an average per employee. So I'm asking for that, and we can, and you can come down and say, well, no, we're only going to do X amount per position.
Yeah.
I want to try to hire my county-paid people at the same rate that the state-paid people get, and have pay equity, with regard to that. That's why I'm proposing the state pay scale with regard to that, and would hire according to that. But if at the highest level, and so that inflates the numbers, and it's sticker shock, I understand.
Very much.
That inflates the numbers by 500,000 by itself, just by itself, the 4 ADAs at the highest level. But the reality of what would actually end up having to be spent of taxpayer money, that's not realistic in terms of what would actually be spent, in my opinion. Halma Rose doesn't come along every day, okay?
I agree.
He's the unicorn. And so the amount that would of taxpayer money that would actually be spent would be less. So when you look at the amount of that, we have certain amounts budgeted for each position. The ADA's at that highest amount. I think our investigators may be at $60,000 a year. That's a level, and as we work through this, the decision can be made to make that less. I try to hire in an investigator at what I would anticipate a detective would be at one of the law enforcement agencies. That's the basis for the $60,000 figure, because our investigators they help evaluate the cases. They can't just came out of the police academy types. They've got to have a level of experience to help us evaluate the cases, do the investigations and other work with regard to that. So there's
But
a
you
certain
understand
amount.
where we're coming from.
Sure.
That's the reason I wanted the jail population to go down, because when it does, we don't have to feed someone. Somebody's mama can do that. We don't have to take care of them. So we save money there. The misdemeanors, absolutely. There's an old saying that goes something like, if my income is less than my outgo, then my upkeep will be my downfall. And we don't want that to happen.
And nor do
We're
I.
free, and we want to stay that way.
Nor do I.
Commissioners, if I may, real quick, just interject. There's some things being said that I am highly advising you against doing. Y'all are fiduciaries of taxpayer dollars. For you to simply try to inflate a budget that may not be spent is absolutely wrong. If we are going to budget, then we need to budget according to what's actually going to be spent. To sit there and inflate a budget, if we did that for every department budget would be highly inflated. We try to do the best that we can with zero-based budgeting, so to have a recommendation to inflate a budget that's not actually going to be spent, I don't believe that is being a good steward or fiduciary of taxpayer dollars.
Well, with all due respect, we're not talking about inflating a budget, because when you've got a budget for the road department or public works or whatever it is, you're going to have a position available in that. And oftentimes you're going to have a salary range, if you will, that's available for that. And when you're dealing with attorneys, you're dealing with different levels of experience with regard to that. If you want to put a $60,000 figure on that where I can only hire people straight out of law school,
I don't believe that's what you said.
That's not gonna happen.
You said that
So-
you would budget high and not expect to spend that.
well, I was talking reality with regard to that, but when you budget.
We budget reality.
Well, when you budget for medical expenses with regard to the employees of the DA's office, we understand that what reality ended up being $40-something thousand more than what was budgeted for that particular employee on average. So you do averages, and what actually ends up being spent may be less or more than what you budgeted for that. So when you budget for the road department and you got a vacant position, but it's budgeted for that amount, and that position is vacant because you don't have an applicant or you haven't been able to hire somebody, you're not spending that money when that position's vacant. So what you're actually spending in reality is less than what you actually budgeted for. But regardless of what you're advising the commission to do or what have you, I'm asking for a budget that would allow us to hire the most experienced prosecuting attorneys that are available without having to come back in front of you and ask for a supplemental budget, because now I've got an applicant, I find another unicorn like Hal here, and I want to hire him, but that position is less money than what Hal's going to take, and so now I'm going to have to ask you for a supplemental budget.
But in your own words, when this whole ordeal came about, your own words to not just Camden, but even to Glenn and all the other counties, was that you hired way too aggressively at way too high of pay. would that not be doing the same thing that we've already done?
No, it would not, because what you're doing now is dispersing payroll directly to the employees, and you're
But you're willing
conflating
to hire at a much higher rate of pay.
No, sir. No, sir.
You just said that.
No, sir.
You said 125,000.
No, sir. It's budgeted for that amount. It would be hired in.
Why would we budget for it if we're not going to spend it?
Why do you budget for medical expenses for employees and you don't spend those?
We have
budget
historical costs to go off of.
You budget for what you may have to spend with regard to that. But if I may address that with regard to that, if you budget for a certain amount with regard to that, like I say, you budget for the amount that, so that you have the funds available should you need them with regard to spending that budget. And with regard to that, to answer your question directly, with all due respect, Mr. Boatwright, you would not be in the same situation, because you're dispersing payroll directly to the employees at an amount of positions that you're authorized through your HR department, with an agreement that those employees aren't going to be hired in any more than that, but would be hired in at the state pay scale. So you're never going to have a situation where you're spending more money than you budgeted for. But I want to be able to hire in people, the most experienced people, and have that ability to do that should that applicant make the application. So that, with regard to that, you can budget each position for $60,000 if you want to, but am I going to be able to hire somebody in for that? I'll be happy to come back before you if I've got an applicant that exceeds what y'all have authorized for the position. Hey, I've got this one applicant, but here's where he's at on the state pay scale, and here's how much I need to pay him, and come back and ask for a supplemental budget. So you can put whatever number you want to on these positions. I'm simply saying right now, as my proposal is not to exceed that amount. If y'all want to put a different amount on that, so be it. I just need the positions so I have the ability or opportunity to hire the people that we need.
But what guarantees are going to be put in place that, just as in the past, that we've budgeted for 3 ADAs over the last 4 years, and now you're telling us that's not the case, that money's been used elsewhere? What guarantees are going to be put in place for the citizens of Camden County?
Because the processes that you follow now, which are different than the ones before, where you've got positions.
So where are the 2 positions now?
Well,
If we funded them, where are they?
But I understand that you want to keep asking me questions. With all due respect, you asked a question. If you allow me to answer it, I would appreciate it. So the question you asked is, what guarantees are you that money that you allocate or appropriate for positions aren't spent elsewhere? Your guarantee is the fact that you're dispersing payroll directly to the employees. That money doesn't come to me. Unlike previously, where you would send me a monthly appropriation, you would disperse payroll and then invoice me to reimburse you. To be honest with you, that system didn't make a lot of sense to me, but it was the way things were done. So there's not an invoicing and a reimbursement situation anymore. Your guarantee is that that money doesn't go elsewhere or appropriated to any other thing, is the fact that you are dispersing payroll directly to the employees with positions that have been allocated of certain amounts, and your HR department doesn't let me hire anybody into those positions that are specified for any amount greater than that's been authorized.
We've never stopped your offers from hiring, and that, I guess that's, you're kind of assuming that you're going to be hiring, but that's not what's been happening.
Well, you've asked me what the guarantees were, and I've told you what the guarantees are, that you put procedures in place where your HR department establishes a staffing plan or position control or whatever you call it, just like you do the road department. You got X number of positions, here's what the salary is for that position, and you don't allow anybody to hire into that position if the salary exceeds that which is authorized. And the HR just simply says, no, we're not putting them on payroll. That's the control. You have total control over whether or not you authorize a person to be hired in at a particular salary.
We're not the hiring authority, you are.
But still, you're the authority that would be paying their salary, and if you say we're not putting them on payroll, I don't hire the person.
But that assumes that you're actually going to hire. There's
Well,
2
I understand
vacancies
that,
right
but-
now, actually 3.
But I understand that, but you asked what guarantees there were that we don't end up in a situation like there was previously. Those are the guarantees. So I've answered your question with regard to that.
I don't think that you've answered the question of what guarantees are there that you're actually going to hire.
If you give me the position, I will advertise those as you've offered with the resources of Camden County for those positions at the salaries that are authorized. With regard to that, We'll hire them in under whatever salary's been authorized by this county, and that would be the guarantee. There would be no reason for me to have a position authorized by this commission, to be funded by this commission, and then not hire into it. That makes no sense.
But you just said earlier that you use that money to supplement, as supplements to other attorneys. So I'll ask the same question that I asked Mr. Howell yesterday. Are there open positions posted currently right now for the DA's office specific to Camden County?
Yes,
Specifically the ADAs?
Yes, there's a state-paid ADA position that's advertised right now on the Prosecuting Attorneys Council website. There is no other position for which I have funding to fill. I'm not going to advertise a position for somebody to apply to it, to interview, without money to hire them on and pay them.
So are you saying that the other two positions that we budgeted for, you're saying that those do not exist?
I'm telling you that I don't have funding to hire into any other positions other than the state-paid ADA position that I have right now, and
So that's saying that
possibly.
they do not exist?
Well, if I may finish my answer again, Mr. Boatwright, I appreciate you wanting to ask questions and continue to press the issue. Right now, whatever positions I have are on the board, and that's the money that I have to fill right there.
Commissioners, I believe if he's saying that they don't exist, then that money shouldn't be allocated.
Keith, sir, if I may, if we were to fund this to the full amount and these positions were to become available, I don't know if you've seen the reporting from the Current on some of the culture issues. Are you sure you would even be able to get candidates that would want to fill those positions?
You know, I can guarantee you that I can't hire anybody unless I have a position authorized and a position funded. So the only way I can hire anybody to come into Camden County and assist with the prosecution of criminal cases here and provide for the public safety of the citizens of this county is if I have positions available that are funded. So with regard to that, you know, you budget for a position, you want to put $80,000 on each ADA position, so be it, with benefits and costs. Whatever you decide to do with regard to that, I don't have any guarantee that I'm going to have an applicant or that any applicants for that position are going to be willing to come here and work. We just interviewed an applicant and extended an offer for the vacant state ADA position. He declined the offer. So we have no other applicants right now. So there's no guarantees of that. But when you're budgeting for a position, I can't tell you that I can fill that position or when I can fill it. I don't have a crystal ball. The manager of the road department, the sheriff, can't tell you if he's got a vacant position, when he's going to be able to hire that position. We have the same problems as any law enforcement agency has with regard to hiring and retaining personnel. We can't afford, our salaries that we can offer and benefits that we can offer are a lot less than private law firms, federal agencies, the Attorney General's office, and quite frankly, other DA's offices. So we're in competition for applicants for prosecutors from a wide array of other prosecution entities or other law firms, if you will. And so with regard to that, once again, that's why I'm asking for y'all to authorize for supplemental pay for the positions any positions that you authorize.
Well, I think we've heard enough for tonight. Any other final comments from the board?
Is there an opportunity to trim your request down?
I will work with you. We can meet with budget committee, whoever's on the budget committee, and look at that. And, you know, and I will work with whomever is to work with regard to budget committee on trimming down the request. We need more personnel, because without more personnel, the bottleneck, if you will,
The funnel, the picture.
or
of
the
funnel you
funnel
have, yeah.
stays the same. The only way to move more cases through that funnel is to widen the bottom of that funnel. And the only way to widen the bottom of that funnel is to add personnel. So any increase will help with regard to that. But I asked Hal, what do you need? And I'm asking you to fund what Hal told me he needs to do the job that needs to be done down here.
All right, we'll take it under consideration, sir. We'll close it, yeah. Oh, public comments. Anybody from the public wish to speak?
Come on.
Going once, going twice? All right. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? We're done. Thank you.